Objects are a core part of JavaScript. They serve as the base for creating data structures and managing encapsulation. Object properties define how data is stored, how it behaves, how it can be accessed, and any restrictions, and also the various characteristics and attributes of the object. As you can see in the code example, properties can store a value directly, like the name property storing the string Alice. A property can also be an accessor that uses a get function to read a value, and can be a symbol property or even a computed property. Computed properties use an expression to define the name of the property. JavaScript object properties can be categorized into two main types: data properties and special properties. Data properties are the most common. They hold values directly. These values can be strings, numbers, booleans, or arrays. Special properties, on the other hand, serve unique purposes or provide extra functionality. These include symbol keys, computed properties, and accessor properties, using the get and set keywords. Accessor properties use getter and setter methods, also called accessors, to control how object properties are accessed and modified. Getters are used when reading a value from the property. Setters are used when assigning a value to a property. In the example, the balance property does not directly store a value. Instead, it uses a get to return a formatted value of the internal _balance property. Similarly, the set method can be used to modify the _balance only if the given value is valid, and throws error if not. Accessor properties offer several advantages. They allow you to calculate values on demand, which means you don't have to store the value if it can be derived when needed. They enable validation and sanitization, so you can check if a value is valid before setting it. They encapsulate internal state, providing better control over how properties are modified, and they ensure backward compatibility during refactoring, allowing you to change the internal implementation without changing the external interface. In the first code example, area is calculated based on the radius on demand. In the second code example, the full name is updated when first or last name are changed or when the full name is set directly. Computed properties in JavaScript objects allow you to use expressions to determine the property names. This means the name of a property is not fixed at the time of creation and can be computed dynamically. In the first code example, the property names are created using the property name variable, string concatenation, and using a function call. In the second example, a function named createFormField dynamically generates properties based on the type argument given. Each JavaScript object property has attributes that control how it behaves. Two fundamental attributes are writable and enumerable. The writable attribute determines if a property's value can be changed, making it read-only when false. The enumerable attribute determines if a property appears during loops or object inspections. The configurable attribute controls whether the property can be deleted or its attributes modified. In the first code example, the ID property is made read-only, and it is set to be enumerable so it will appear in a loop. In the second code example, the API_key property cannot be deleted, modified, and also will not appear in for loops as it is not enumerable. These attributes provide better control over object properties. JavaScript provides advanced techniques for managing object properties. Object sealing and freezing are used to make objects immutable. Object sealing prevents properties from being added or removed, but it allows modifications to existing properties. Object freezing makes an object entirely immutable, preventing both modifications and additions or deletions. Property attributes can be combined with accessors for robust property validation. As you can see in the second code example, the age property setter validates the age and throws an error if the value is not in the allowed range. Property descriptors are a way to define and examine the details of a property. You can get property descriptors using getOwnProperty descriptor. It shows all the details of a particular property like its value, writable, enumerable, and configurable. Similarly, property descriptors are used to define and modify object properties Using define property. You can define all of these attributes using the object passed as the second argument to this method. Using define properties, we can define multiple properties at once by defining the attributes for each of them. JavaScript offers powerful tools for inspecting and modifying object properties at runtime. Property reflection can be used using object methods like keys, values, entries, and getOwnPropertyNames, which return an array of keys, values, key value pairs, and all property names respectively. You can dynamically define and modify the properties using define property. In the code example, we are adding a property named baseURL that has a getter and setter. The setter makes sure that only a URL which starts with HTTPS is allowed. When working with object properties, following best practices is essential for creating robust and maintainable code. Use descriptive property names, so the purpose of each property is immediately clear. Use getters for computed properties, which will calculate a value on demand and prevent storing redundant values. Use object.freeze for constants, making the value of an object constant, that is, it cannot be changed once defined. On the other hand, avoid ambiguous property names, as they can make the code difficult to understand. Avoid excessive nesting, which makes objects complex and difficult to maintain. Do not mix data and behavior randomly. Instead, keep data and logic separate for better organization. If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit codelucky.com for more such useful content.